joining us here as we talk about the FY24 SEICBP program RFP. We're joined today by a few of my colleagues, Crystal McDonald, as well as Yolanda Hayden here in the room with me. Rick Fleury will maybe joining us a little bit later in the call. He had a conflict, unfortunately. We're going to go ahead and get started. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be posted afterward if folks need to access individual pieces of the presentation. Just a few housekeeping notes. We will go through our presentation in its entirety and do our question and answer period afterward. You can always put questions into the chat window, or if you'd like to prefer, you can come off mute after the presentation and ask your question directly. We have a small enough group that we can certainly have, we can have some chat during the Q&A session. Please let us know if you have any difficulties hearing the presentation, and occasionally we do run into technical difficulties as we're here in the office in our meeting room working with our IT. So we'll try and address as many questions as possible. We typically have plenty of time for those, but additional questions that come in will actually be addressed and posted on the website as well. We'll go through that timeline. Any questions that do come up after this webinar can always be sent to tradegreen@dcseu.com. Let me turn it over to Crystal McDonald to talk a little bit about who we are as a DCSEU as we see some new names on the attendee list today. Crystal, you're still muted.
Guess I should have me too, but thank you, Mark. Welcome to everyone who's joined us this afternoon. We're happy to have you guys here. And as Mark mentioned, I'm Crystal McDonald, the Account Management and Workforce Development Director here at the DC Sustainable Energy Utility. For those of you who are new to us, we'd like to just reestablish who we are and understand our connection to all energy users here in the district. We've been operating as the DCSEU since about 2011. Our parent organization is VEIC, but we are doing business, and most of us are residents here in the district. So we're hyper local, and we care about the mission of this organization. And we have been charged by the District Department of Energy and Environment to deliver financial incentives, technical assistance, and information to all residential and business energy users here in the district. Our impact has been far and wide, and you'll see some of our impact statistics a little later. But yeah, we've helped our residents and businesses save millions of dollars on their energy costs. But not only that, we've helped them reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and of course, deployed technologies for renewable energy, primarily solar across the district. So our goal is to build a brighter economic, environmental, and energy future for the district. I'd like to just mention some of our goals that we have listed on our performance-based contract with the District Department of Energy and Environment. We've been tasked to save energy, thereby saving energy costs, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, create and expand green jobs and green job opportunities, focus on local economic development. So we are hyper-focused on the certified business enterprises in the district and the small business enterprises. We do have strategic goals around our engagement with CBEs and SBEs. And we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. And then, of course, we're very supportive and active in the affordable housing space with our low-income spending and providing extra resources around deep energy retrofits to make sure our multifamily and single-family homes that are income qualified has access to affordable and accessible energy efficiency as well. And then, of course, we continue on with our now combined renewable energy goal. We were doing so well on the solar side. We didn't want to leave energy efficiency behind, so we do have a combined goal around that mostly for our commercial customers. So those are our benchmarks for DCSEU and what we're trying to achieve across the district. Next slide. In particular, we thank you for joining us today as we continue on with our Train Green program. Train Green, we've been able to capture the legal title, the Sustainable Energy Infrastructure Capacity Building and Pipeline Program. This program was created in response to the Clean Energy DC Omnibus Amendment Act of 2018. And we're doing this under the auspices of DOEE, along with DSLBD, the Department of Small and Local Business Development. And we've been in operation now since 2020, and we're now in year 5. Is it year 5 or year 4 of the SEICBP program? And we've been growing in participation every year since that initial year. But this program helps us to focus primarily on, next slide, please, the green jobs for DC residents and businesses for CBEs. And because of the clean energy policies in the district, we have a dire need to build capacity, and that includes training. We are welcoming folks into the green economy, but we're also training up our contractors to expand their marketability and to increase their ability to compete and procure business in the green economy space. We have so many projects that we're seeing across the district in both large commercial, medium-sized commercials, and small businesses and residential. And we want to get everyone trained. Our courses, I don't want to get too far in our courses, but the work that's required by the clean energy policies also require a level of professional certification. So a lot of our courses, we are looking to offer some level of certification and credentials. I don't know why I'm hearing an echo. But with that said, that'll help us focus in on what our training capacity needs are today. We hope that you find interest and just kind of respond to what our needs are. And we look forward to a healthy, mutually beneficial relationship with those of you who have joined us today. And we want to continue to expand and grow our program because of the expanding clean energy opportunities here in the District of Columbia. And so with that said, I'll pass the mic back to Mark so that he can get into the details with you. Again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Crystal. Great overview. Very well put. So much demand and so much need, and we're working to help build that pipeline here in the district. As we are wrapping up FY23, working on our annual report, we have some statistics to share with you based on our most recent successful year. Out of all of the companies that we've engaged with, 159 of them have been CBEs or district-based businesses. Out of the 300 total people who signed up for the program, registered for the program, 188 of those are district residents. So we have growing reach, here in the district, but we also have folks that are in the area and working in the district participating as well. 31 courses this past year, which was up from 23 the year before, really helped show the interest in this program. Last year, we had a record number of applications, and I suspect this coming year we will as well. We had 79 folks who earned a national level credential, such as Lead Green Associate or Lead AP, any of the BPI certifications, the Certified Energy Manager, and other similar certifications like the Building Operator certification. certification, which is really one of our key metrics. As Crystal mentioned earlier, we are trying to make sure that people are trained and certified to be able to provide those kinds of services like energy auditing, energy commissioning, retro commissioning, that you do need to have some level of certification for, as well as experience in, to be done properly. We'll take a moment to talk a little bit about our attendees, our target audience. As Crystal mentioned, the Clean Energy Omnibus Bill was really written to support district CBEs, certified business enterprises, or CBE eligible firms. We know some businesses are in the process of becoming CBE, and so it's really open to district residents, primarily first and foremost, who are working at CBEs or district businesses. Second tier of priority is district residents working outside of the district, or non-residents, generally speaking, Maryland or Virginia, who are working for CBEs or district-based firms. It is a metropolitan area. As then tier 3, folks who don't necessarily fall into the first tier 1 and 2. So we have a little bit of flexibility in terms of who's able to attend, but these are only requirements, I should stress, for our attendees, not for the instructors themselves. So we'll start getting into a little bit about the coursework that we're looking for. Really, we use this RFP to identify, the latest and greatest courses. We've had a number of providers with us for a few years, but I will say that every year brings a different set of proposed courses from different providers. So every year we do have a different set of course offerings. You can see on the left side of the slide here, some of the past ones, as well as some of the ones that have been recently introduced into the program, such as Intro to Heat Pumps and Heat Pump Design Applications. Some of these courses are prepackaged from providers. Some of these courses were developed and customized for DCSEU in the district context, so it can vary quite a bit. Also note here, we'll go through a little bit in detail what the pathways are and what those entail, but we're always interested in hearing about other courses that you may have to offer that weren't necessarily spelled out here in this RFP. Feel free to reach out ahead of time to myself if you have any specific questions about courses that you would like to offer. As I mentioned just a few moments ago, we have courses grouped into pathway. We'll talk a little bit about these pathways in a few moments, but these are really set out so that people can pick a career pathway and see a set of courses that they can take that leads to a certification or a credential that really enables them to get a job in that trade, in that industry, in that space, so that people who are brand new to the space have an entry point, it's a runway into the green jobs sector in the district. And of course, we have introductory courses, basic courses, and advanced courses. We have a number of folks that are mid-career or advanced career that are retooling or reskilling to add new services to their offerings. We have some CBEs that are working with us that have essentially incorporated this program of Train Green into their professional development system, or in some cases provides the backbone of their professional development opportunities, where they have multiple staff that are working their ways through various pathways within Train Green so that they can provide new sets of services and have new skilled employees. We are always looking for a variety of different course levels. Bulk of the courses that we have are probably introductory and basic. I'd say the majority of the credentials that we have are in the basic and advanced categories. Some of them have prerequisites, not all of them have prerequisites. We try and build those prerequisites into the pathway. So you would have your, for example, lead green associate offered at the basic level and your lead AP offered at the advanced level. Or we might have something like building performance institute course, have the earlier analyst courses come first, before some of the later, more in-depth courses like leakage detection and infiltration. So we do ask that instructors are submitting, identify where their courses fall in terms of the course difficulty level and as within the various pathways. I'll take a little bit of a moment to talk about introductory courses, because these are the ones where we tend to have a little bit more breadth of topics. In the past, we've touched on topics like introduction to building science, introduction to energy efficiency, as well as introduction to decarbonization, introduction to healthy buildings, climate change in buildings, etc. So we like to have that broad foundation of education for folks that are working their way up the pathway. So again, feel free to propose courses that fit inside any of the general pathways we have here, but may not match any of the specific language that we've got in the RFP or this presentation. Pathways we've instituted here really sort of focusing on what we see as the needs for the District of Columbia, specifically in terms of clean energy omnibus bill provisions like the Building Energy Performance Standard, DC's benchmarking requirements, renewable energy portfolio standard, et cetera, so that we're providing our CBEs and our contractors those skill sets and credentials they need to meet market demand that we know has been growing, especially since the implementation of the Building Energy Performance Standard. But we also know that DC in particular has a very healthy market for LEED buildings, both LEED new construction and LEED operations and maintenance. So we're trying to provide that breadth of opportunity under things like the sustainability and health pathway. We're always trying to grow the building operations section. It's been a challenge. We only have a few CBEs that are really active in terms of property management, building management, facility management. We're also looking to add to that category in terms of companies that we work with and students as well as courses. The energy efficiency category tends to be the most popular in terms of number of courses, also has the greatest overlap with other sections as well, as energy auditing and benchmarking and modeling tend to also take into account factors like HVAC and renewables, as well as operational processes and indoor air quality, sustainability and health, et cetera. We see a lot of interest in the building marketplace for energy auditing services. DCSEU has an energy audit incentive currently, commercial energy audit incentive. So we're trying to provide district residents and district businesses with the skill sets they need to be able to perform that service. Within that, of course, comes things like energy modeling. This past year, we had a passive design energy modeling course for architects. So critical elements of the energy efficiency process, both on the new construction side and the existing building side. HVAC and air conditioning, I would say specifically we're looking at inverter heat pumps at this point in time, heat pump technology, heat pump water heaters, etc. Although storage isn't on this list now, I could foresee it potentially becoming so in the future, particularly if DCSEU is able to offer incentives around storage, which I believe we've piloted in the past or explored for the future. That would probably come under renewables and solar. Solar is sort of the bread and butter of renewables here in the district. So it really encompasses the entirety of our education currently. But we do hear about ground source heat pumps and other sort of renewable technologies that people are talking about and maybe even considering in the commercial space, but have maybe yet to execute on. We will hopefully be offering those kinds of courses as well. Question that we get often, we'll jump ahead to the Q&A, is EV charging included here? It is not. The DCSEU does not work in the EV charging space. To be perfectly frank, that's an energy use, where we work on incentivizing energy savings and energy reductions. So there's no energy savings to be found for us in EV charging. However, Pepco has great incentives for EV charging, and they may even have workforce development opportunities as well. So this next slide here is to really give folks a sense of how these pathways flow down. We may start from people off with a few different introductory courses, and from there, talk to them and see, where what you'd be interested in a career. And if they're working in green cleaning, we might put them towards the lead GA and the lead APO&M. If they want to work, in hands-on, we might put them towards building operations and maintenance, or HVAC, or solar installers package. So we have pathways that flow neatly, and we ask that folks identify which pathways that your courses fit into when submitting your proposals. And then if you have a question regarding which pathway your course might fit in, feel free to reach out and ask us. Okay, so for those of you who've seen this presentation once or twice, here's the good stuff. Here's the new slide, the one that changes entirely from year to year. This is sort of our focused courses, particularly courses that we may not have hosted before or in a different context. I think the biggest change is that we are now really starting to look for hands-on or field training opportunities. We are still working on a place to train people on hands-on for HVAC and heat pump installation in the districts. To date, we have not located a facility, so if there are folks here on the call that are thinking about such an opportunity, please do reach out and let us know. We are open to different formats. I'd say that's why we included field training. We know maybe there isn't a facility in the district, but maybe perhaps you have clients, or you might be able to partner with a contractor that has clients, where we could organize a course that utilizes field visits and site visits to provide some of those hands-on opportunities. So feel free to be creative here in terms of those ideas and curricula. As we work to solve on both the solar side and the HVAC side for our hands-on training courses and opportunities in the district. Single family, particularly, as well as commercial net zero energy design. We know with the district's net zero code coming online in 2026, for single family construction and major renovations, there's going to be a huge need for both the design side and the construction side to be developing, net zero single family houses. We at the DCSEU know of maybe a few, 2 or 3 companies that are building single family houses in the district. Everything is going to be net zero starting in 2026. So there's coursework around in particular, either single-family net zero design or construction are definitely priority for this year. Passive house certification, here's another area that I think is going to be critical to that net zero single-family piece. We have not had too many passive house submissions in the past. I think this year we'll be looking at them a little bit more closely if folks do have those options available. And of course, with decarbonization and electrification being the major push both nationally and regionally and here in districts, any courses that we have, particularly on the design, implementation, and maintenance side of things, for fuel switching from gas to electric, those are all in harmony with the programs that we have at DCSEU coming this year, where we'll be working specifically on electrifying low-income single-family homes. And then my personal favorite, which we also don't see a lot of, is building design and envelope design, and maybe even I'll add retro commissioning there as a big need for many of our multifamily properties in the district that are built decades ago and have leaky envelopes, as it's a big issue. On the right-hand side here, we'll just quickly run through a few of the dates. We have the webinar here today. Any formal questions that you might have that we don't get to here in the session, Q&A session after this webinar, you can always submit them, and we will post all of our responses just a few days after that. I think it's the 17th. It's not listed here, but it is the RFP. And then the first round of applications are due by the 30th of November. We have here in big and red that we will be accepting submissions on a rolling basis after the 30th. As budget allows, we tend to commit the vast majority of our budget to proposals that we receive in the first round. However, things change, budgets change over the year, so we are accepting things on a rolling basis, and we may be approving them throughout the year as budget allows. I would say, our sister program, the Workforce Development Program, also engages some of our trained green instructors to do instructions for the Workforce Development Program as well. So sometimes there is sort of the opportunity to work with multiple programs here at the DCSEU, as we have in the past few years. I'll just talk about a moment about our reporting requirements with our client, Department of Energy and the Environment. This is essentially what our client who is paying for all of this really cares about. So I like to highlight it here because it can still be a challenge, particularly in the virtual environment, particularly if there's multiple days, multiple sessions in a course. Attendance rates for each registered individual, we track that. We have milestones for each course that we track in our CRM. Yolanda here is intimately involved in making sure that people who have attended are completed, and if they haven't completed, we know who they are, if they pass their credential or not. It's important because it's one of those key KPIs that we report to our client on, but we also want to know if they're going for their lead AP, have they got their lead GA already? 5 out of 10 times the answer is no, but they're still signed up for the lead AP course. We do ask that providers offer a certificate of completion if there isn't a credential being offered, if there isn't an exam and a credential or certificate that's earned. We ask that a certificate of completion is provided, and we do actually have a format template that could be used to do that. And then some of our providers have advanced online platforms and engagement tools. And so we ask and appreciate any additional information that comes out of the courses in terms of reporting, information, quizzes, grades, amount of time taken, et cetera, spent on the platform, et cetera. We ask for all of that. And then a few of our instructors conduct their own surveys. So those survey results as well. I mentioned earlier, much of our instruction is done virtually. We operate things perhaps a little bit differently than other programs in that we provide the technology platform for our instructors to use for hosting the courses. Whether that usually be Teams or Zoom. We will often provide our instructors with their own Zoom account for which they can start and service hosts and record their own sessions without the need of DCSEU staff or having to pay for those Zoom accounts themselves. So it's not a requirement to have those systems in place already. We usually provide technical support. It's myself or somebody from the IT that's usually able to pop in for the first few minutes of the first session and ensure everything is rolling. But from that point, it's usually up to the instructors to launch and manage their courses virtually, as well as scheduling any in-person testing, field testing requirements that a course might entail. I will say in some situations, we are able to host courses live here at the DCSEU offices. We've done so in the past. And so if there is, particularly for any hands-on opportunities. That that ability to provide those in-person instruction, please note that in your proposals. And then we handle the registration, particularly for Zoom. Zoom is a great tool because it has its own registration function. We allow folks to sign up based on their tiers of eligibility. Yolanda is the one that looks at all of the incoming applications, determines their tier of eligibility, and provides them with a code. So we capture all the registration information and then provide you all with lists of our attendees. So let's dig into sort of the meat of the scoring criteria. Experience is of course the greatest category when it comes to number of points that we like to spell out quite clearly. Often a question we get asked is, should we use the table that's involved that we see in the RFP? And the answer is yes. You can, where you see the notes column, you can include your own responses there and remove the base text that's in there. We often have some instructors that also recommend how many points that they get for it, which is fine, but we have a reviewers group that actually reads all of these proposals and scores it using a rubric to determine how many points each section is awarded. References, of course, we like to prefer similar contracts and similar customers, but we know it varies quite a bit from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So a few references are always helpful. Training, certification, design material. I think what I'll focus on here. Of course, we want to know what the course level is, where it fits in to the pathways, prerequisites, etc. A question we often get that I'll address here is, does the course need to be already developed, or can we propose a new course? And the answer is yes, you can propose new courses. When you do propose a new course, we do ask that you provide that detailed description or sample of similar kind of training materials. If possible, the more detail, the better, particularly with regard to how a course might be customized for the DCSEU context. And I'll unpack that even further. When I say that, I mean DCSEU building codes and applicable regulations like the Building Energy Performance Standard or DC building benchmarking requirements that could be usefully addressed. And then, of course, I'll add DCSEU program offerings. Quite often we have some kind of program offering that's goes in line with the services covered by the trainings. So any opportunity to insert how DCSEU can help financially with the projects is also appreciated. Technology, again, we provide additional points for folks that have additional platforms or technologies that they utilize in their instruction. Some folks I've seen in the past use polling tools or other student engagement tools in order to gamify the courses and help ensure that people are frankly paying attention and engaged. After one pop quiz comes up, and you see who's been paying attention and can throw out those answers quickly. And then the next question that comes up, everybody's paying attention. So we do reward instructors that have that additional layer of student engagement built in. Not required, but here's where we'd like to hear about it. As Crystal noted earlier, this year, probably more than any other year, we're really focused on working with CBEs in the district. The past year we only had one CBE, so that's certainly not a requirement. But if you are new to the program, if there's a way that you can work with a CBE on a proposal together, then that proposal will get additional points depending on the categories that the CBE is aligned with. We say CBE, we actually also really mean SBE, which is a category within the CBE designation, small business enterprise, as 35% carve out for DCSEUs. District spend is with small business enterprises who are CBEs. So I know that's a lot of insider baseball when we're talking about DC government contracting, but it's worth noting here for the variety of folks that we have on the call. Again, it's not a requirement, but it always helps with points on this section of the proposal. Budget, we do want everything by line item. We typically see two different ways of budgeting, either a per person cost, per head cost, or a per class cost with a maximum number of people. For instance, it's going to be a 90-minute webinar for up to 40 people at $5,000. Just spitballing an example here, or it's minimum of 10 people at $1,500 per person. So that's typically the way that we see proposals come in. I will note, perhaps as I haven't noted in the past, particularly as we look to the insurance requirements, any costs that you all have as instructors as part of the process should be baked into your costs for the course and not as a separate line item, because we're not able to cover things like insurance fees as a line item in the budgets. And then again, participant evaluation. If there are additional measures that you all have to track engagement, satisfaction, application of knowledge, we award up to 5 points there. So we have this slide here because we often found this could be one of the biggest hurdles for small businesses to engage with us, the DCSEU, in both Trade Green and some of the other contracting opportunities that we have. These are district government lowdown requirements from the Office of Resource Management. Any district government contractor, subcontractor has to follow these insurance requirements, which can be a little bit nuanced for some insurance carriers. We found that some insurance carriers may not have the cybersecurity insurance that's necessary, or providers need to go to one or two or three different insurance carriers to get all the necessary requirements. But these are for subcontracting purposes of requirements that we will need to see on a COI, certificate of insurance, before any course can be run. And again, we recognize there's an additional course here. Please consider that when you're coming up with your, current cost fees and prices per head. Let me talk a little bit about the process itself. All of our instructors become vendors, and the first step is to submitting a proposal is getting set up for the DCSEU contractor portal. One of our staff folks has to set you up with an invitation. So you really start out by emailing proposals at DCSEU and requesting access to the contractor portal. They will send a link for you to get set up. There's also a request form there. The link, again, you'll have this deck and you should be able to hopefully click on that link directly in that deck, but you can also email directly. Usually within 2 business days, we reply with that link so you can get set up, upload your proper information, and as well as your proposal. And of course, there's the support email address in case you've been in the past and you need a reminder as to your username and/or password. Please do email webportalhelp@dcseu.com. And we do need to have all of these proposals submitted through this system, and it makes responses that are not maybe disqualified. So just a few last URLs for you here. We generally publicize everything related to Trade Green, the courses and the RFPs through our Trade Ally newsletter, which you can sign up for at that email address if you haven't already. And then any questions that come in generally through the program, that's tradegreen@dcseu.com. So without further ado, we're going to take questions. I'm going to switch over back to Teams and take a look in the chat window and see if any questions have come in. If you would like to come off of mute and speak, please go ahead and raise your hands as well. Okay, let's go to Q&A. Nope, nothing in the Q&A window. Ellen, I think I see your hand raised. Please feel free to come off of mute.
Thanks. I have a couple of questions. In terms of the audience, I see the courses are geared to, but are you aiming to individuals or potentially to teams, like a facilities team or a contractor's, crew or something?
It's individuals. It's individuals. People register on an individual basis, and their tier of priority is determined combination of residents and employer. That being said, we've had employers that have sent their team to one or more courses. So it's a possibility, okay. But we don't have a specific sort of crew targeted courses.
Gotcha. Okay, can I ask a second question about outreach and promotion? Is there an outreach and marketing strategy to get people to come to the classes, or are the contractors responsible for doing promotion for their own classes?
Great question. So we do our own promotion of it. I would love to be able to shout it from the hilltops and have everybody sign up. The wider we promote it, the wider we have people from Chicago or Guam or Dubai signing up to participate. So we try and limit our promotions a little bit more towards, first and foremost, district CBEs. And so we do all of that promotion ourselves. That's not something that our instructors have to do. It's optional, I would say. It's always appreciated, particularly if we have an introductory course or a course where we have something like 30 or 40 seats available. We always appreciate it. And usually we can stretch things a little bit when we have something like an introductory course or a webinar. We've got 40 spaces available. We're a little less picky on who attends, but it's not a requirement. And alongside that question, I should say, we meet contractual minimums. So our instructors are never required to fill up the course with minimums. That's on us. So if we've booked an instructor for a minimum of 10 people, that's what you get paid when the invoice comes. Nicole.
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I apologize in advance because I did join a little bit late, but will the presentation and the PowerPoint slides be provided, the recording?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
We will send a PDF version with hopefully operable links. Yes.
Okay, great. And then can you speak a little bit about the requirements for the provider? I know I've taken quite a few courses from you guys. Are you looking for the instructors to be certified themselves, or are they able to just be the instructor of the course?
Yes. So
and not carry a particular credential or anything?
Yes. We don't look at it. I'd say that's something that would be rewarded under the experience category of the points section of the proposal, but it's certainly not a requirement.
Okay. And then two, I'm assuming we are able to provide multiple different courses that meet the requirements.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You may include multiple courses in one proposal. Please don't submit multiple proposals for different courses. And as I said, if we welcome new courses, so feel free to include those on the list as well. You can add a section if it doesn't neatly fit in with your proposal format. We've seen a bunch of people. We've seen a lot of different proposals, and they come in different formats. So usually, as long as you're meeting, the various sections, then it works. But again, feel free to put all of your courses in a list directly into that table. So the other Nicole.
All right. Hi, Mark, and everybody. This is Nicole Tisver with Simbi Homes. I was an instructor during the last cycle, working collaboratively with Samita at Energy Shrink. And for this cycle, we'd like to propose some in-person courses. So a lot of people are familiar with the Retrofit Lab. It's a concept I've been developing for a long time. So we're thinking about really taking that Retrofit Lab curriculum and and working in a house that needs these kinds of repairs and doing a very live, demonstration, interactive type training. So a couple questions about that. One is, the budget, obviously the budget's going to be different, right? And, so to what extent is there budget for things like material costs and even, maybe having to reimburse the building owner for leasing or using the space and those types of things?
Yeah, I mean it's a new approach. So I don't think that we would say that we've had any past cause to answer those questions. So the short answer is I could get back to you on that.
Okay. Yeah.
But as I said, as we explore hands-on opportunities, recognizing that there aren't facilities in the district, we're going to bring these new ideas to our clients, DOEE, who approves spending on, new course delivery methods, let's say.
Yeah. Okay. And then next question is, would the facility need to be located within DC? I have some different clients I'm working with and some spaces that could work really well for this. One of them's in DC, but like, for example, another one's in Hyattsville.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I'm going to preliminarily say yes. We're also working again to get, permission to include things like transportation in the budget. We do that for the externship program. So, we think we can do that for this program as well. But again, it has to be something that we get approved.
Okay. Are we still required to do the sexual harassment insurance policy if you do an in-person training?
So yes, that's the short answer. And that's a great point. There is a sexual abuse and molestation insurance requirement for in-person courses. It can be hard to find that insurance. It doesn't actually cover interactions between adults, so I'm not sure why ORM asks for it, but it's one of those things that we like to say, it's a cost, build it into your price per head of working with us.
Okay.
There is a waiver process. I think we've been reluctant to ask for those waivers in the past. However, if it becomes a big issue, we have seen people get quotes of $5,000 or $8,000 for a year of sexual abuse and molestation coverage. We could probably ask for an exception.
Okay, good to know. And this is my last question, which is about the timeline. It seemed like last year there was a little bit of a pause between, finding out we were awarded the contract and then before we could start. I can't remember all the logistics there, but when do you anticipate us being able to start our first session for those
So a lot earlier is the hope for this year. It can take up to a month or two to get through the contracting process, but we have a little bit more experience this year in processing these, and we know what some of the roadblocks, the hurdles are. So we're hoping that we can get the contracting process wrapped up by the end of January and courses rolled out starting in February. We have some. There's a handful of courses that we do via vendor agreement, and I should mention that it's a rare occurrence, but occasionally it happens. If you have a course where you are the only provider of that course, please let us know, because we may be able to use a vendor agreement to do that. The one example that I can give you is the Certified Energy Manager from AEE. You can only get that from AEE, so there isn't. That's where the DC government provides an exception to the competitive RFP process. Otherwise, we run the RFP process on an annual basis to ensure that there's an on-ramp for CBEs and other companies to come on and provide new courses.
Okay, thank you.
Heather.
Yeah, hi. Heather Breslin from Stephen Winter Associates. Hey, Mark. Question for you as far as CEUs. What programs are you seeing the biggest demand for CEUs?
So that's a really great question, actually, one that we get often. This is my canned response. We don't really cover continuing education in the program. It's not the intention of it legislatively. So we don't track that. And it's not something like we're not going to pay for a course solely to provide continuing education credits. If it does, great. We list that and we promote that. We know AIA is a popular one, but we really only have a handful of AIAs that are CBEs. So, while we know it's in demand here in the district, our core audience of CBEs don't tend to come to us for CEUs.
Okay.
Right.
Hey, can you hear me, Mark?
Yes.
Hey, good talking with you. I just want to clarify, so I understand we're new to this. So we're a sole source provider of a particular certification program, but we also offer other courses. We would put that into one proposal if we have multiple courses, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And I would say, email me separately about, anything that might be subject to sole source, and we can look at that, potentially separately. I think the piece of clarification I'll add here is that while some providers are the only provider of that particular course, there may be other similar types of courses or similar certifications whereby DOE would look at it and be like, no, that has to go through the RFP process.
Sure.
That's my caveat there.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. There's multiple people that provide energy management certification.
Right.
So my other question is, if our delivery is via your Zoom platform, and it's done virtually, are all these insurance requirements necessary? Because it doesn't seem like the accident and disease and it doesn't seem like certain things are applicable for.
Yes. Yes, they're necessary. These are not our flow down requirements. These are DC government flow down requirements. We get this question a lot. If I had my druthers, the answer would be no. But what you don't see on here is the auto requirement. So that's automatically it's automatically waived for this program.
Okay. No, because
and then again, we've had it required before, but I'm inclined to ask more about, exemptions for the sexual abuse and molestation covered.
All right, no, because when we talked to our insurance agent, they wouldn't offer us a particular insurance because it says it was not applicable to our type of business. If we were going in person, then that changes the game. But we'll go back to them and see what they have to say. So any provider that's bidding on it should factor that into their per head, per student cost or their per minimum cost.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. And we can propose, especially for the introductory courses, self-paced or on-demand courses.
Absolutely. Yeah. And apologies if I didn't mention that. We accept all sorts of formats: on demand, live, virtual, live in person. Yeah.
Okay. Because we have different delivery mechanisms depending on the level of the course. So anyway, well, thank you.
Right. Other questions? Let me get back to the chat. Would in-person training require separate insurance? So yes, that's sexual abuse and molestation insurance coverage that I mentioned. I'm more willing to ask for exemptions, but I would say if you're proposing something in person, assume that that's a yes. And take it into your costs.